Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. We are a Boston-based syndicated internet radio station. You can listen to us just about anywhere that you choose, whether you're in the car, online, whether you're listening to Alexa, asking her to play Dream Vision 7 radio network, wherever you happen to be. And we are proud to be the media partner for the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. So we are, you might hear a double situation here, but the phone just went on. But anyway, we have an excellent guest for you today. He was actually on Dr. Bernie's show a couple of months back, and I really wanted to have him on my show so we could showcase all the goodness that he is doing there out in the world. He is Robert Ferguson. He's nationally recognized certified nutritionist, fitness expert, speaker, and author. He's currently serving on the Presidential Task Force on Obesity for the National Medical Association. He's also worked with the NAACP, the United Negro College Fund, and several other organizations devoted to supporting health in underserved communities. We're going to be talking about the disparities, the COVID-19 all around the African American population. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Robert.
Well, it's good to be here, and thank you for having me on. I've been excited to have this conversation.
Good, and I am too, because as I said, I felt compelled to have you back to share so much more. So I wanted to start with what happened in your life, or what got you started and interested in nutrition?
You know what? I had a moment when I was in the U.S. Marine Corps where I started gaining weight, and I wasn't quite sure why I was gaining the weight, and I just assumed it was what I was eating because we were still exercising. And I just had a moment where I realized the way I ate and my understanding of nutrition was all based on how I grew up. And that's very elementary, but I just had a light bulb moment. And in that moment, I realized I eat chicken and I eat certain foods because that's what my mom put in front of us. And I grew up during the time where what your parents gave you, you ate it, right?
Right.
So at that point, I was like, okay, well, how do I lose this unwanted weight? And that's when I started looking at nutrition. And I realized very quickly how confusing it is. And so then my mom became my light because I knew she had a lot of experience with gaining and losing weight, that she was always on and off the diets. And so I went to her for some guidance, and I realized along the path that I would like to help my mom, because I also came to the conclusion that most of my friends' moms were overweight and battling with weight. And that really is how I got into it. I got into it for me, and then I discovered how I could help my mom and I could help other moms. And so I like to say that my approach to losing weight and helping people with nutrition is mama approved, if you will.
Now, did you start with the basics? Because this was some years ago, so you probably weren't thinking plant-based, but were you thinking organic and just real fresh food?
Well, in 1989, people weren't talking about organic as much. During that time, my perception was that the big problem was I was eating too much meat, and meat was why I was gaining weight. And so in my ignorance, I quit eating meat. I became a vegetarian as I was learning about nutrition. And then next thing you know, I was a vegan, and I went to all these extremes. And then throughout the process, I ended up getting a degree in dietetics and got educated. And now I'm at a place where I can show people how to eat practically anything they want and eat it in a way where they can lose weight if they want to lose weight, but they can, most importantly, improve overall health.
And so you did create the diet-free life methodology. So explain to us when you say you can eat just about anything, but as we know, too much fat, or many people are in areas where they can just go grab a McDonald's. So explain.
Well, okay, so I don't have a problem with McDonald's or any establishment out there. And I can say that because I've done due diligence and I've vetted these companies. I've been to McDonald's headquarters quite a few times. Just to understand the process. I've met with their dietitians, their nutritionists, and the people who manage their food. And I am very confident and comfortable with what they refer to as fit for human consumption based on U.S. dietary guidelines. So with all that being said, at the end of the 90s, 1995, I began the process of creating Diet-Free Life. And around 2000, or actually 1999, I met this Filipina. She had just moved from the Philippines to the States, and she became my client. And at that point, I was under the principles that if it's white regarding food or ingredients, it ain't right. So avoid the white flour, avoid adding salt to your food, avoid all the white sugar. That's how my mind was at that time. Well, this lady became my client, and I remember telling her to avoid this white stuff for 21 days. And as she was leaving my office, she turned around and she says, "So no white rice for the first 21 days." And I looked at her and says, "Yes, no white rice." And my friend was coming in, who was an executive chef, and he says, "I don't think she's coming back." I go, "Why would you say that? She just wrote me a check." And guess what? She never came back. And I realized at that moment that you don't interfere with people's cultural relationship to food. And I realized at that moment, the philosophy was born that we are going to meet people where they are, because people are going to eat what they're going to eat. The goal is to show them how to eat it in the healthiest way. Right? So, for instance, if you want to eat bacon, that's fine. But my recommendation from a health standpoint is when you can afford it and it makes sense, choose bacon that's uncured and choose bacon that's free of antibiotics. And then I go into detail on why. So I'm not going to say that. And then if someone's going to go to McDonald's, I'm not going to encourage you to eat a Big Mac with fries and a milkshake. I'm going to show you how to eat McDonald's in a healthier way. And most of the time it's based on portions. And we've been extremely successful. Over the years, we're working with diabetics, working with people dealing with PCOS, fibromyalgia, you name it. And, of course, our big call to action is people wanting to lose weight.
Right. And as you well know, the obesity in this country is off the charts. And a lot of people will expect that it's what they're eating. But you made a good point, because the amount of food that people are eating, even the advertisements on some of the restaurants, or the plate piles with food, and it's really insane, because the body isn't able to absorb and digest all of that at one single sitting.
Right, and that's for a whole bunch of reasons. Food is the celebration of life. I had my best conversations with my mom growing up in the kitchen, oftentimes over food. I'm also familiar, maybe your audience, if they're familiar with what they call, the government refers to as food insecurities. Mm-hmm. Food insecurity is a lot of people are falling prey to that. And it's people who, when they do get access to eating food, they don't know how to stop if it's still on the table. Mm-hmm. Because they don't know when they're going to eat again, if that makes sense.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people in impoverished areas and communities who, is not that they're eating processed foods constantly, which they do have a lot of access to that, but when they eat, they're eating thinking, I may not eat tomorrow. And so I'm going to really eat. And then they're only eating once, maybe twice a day. And when that's the case, oftentimes you throw your metabolism, for lack of better expression, in a tizzy, and it slows, and you're burning fewer calories, which means you're more prone to gain weight than to stay at your weight or lose it. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yes, I totally understand and agree. Yes.
And here, if you were to ask me, what is the number one reason why we have this obesity problem and why we're probably never going to correct it, my answer is that the uninformed, which is most people, are being influenced by the misinformed, which is your dietitians, your personal trainers, your physicians, a lot of people who are out here and are quick to tell people what is healthy and what's not, and they may not be informed fully. You know, it's kind of like if you watch Super Size Me, which became really popular, right, when they beat up on McDonald's, most people don't know that that was primarily propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think more people are coming to know that what is pushed on TV may not be factual, that it's really driven by the conglomerates of making money at the cost of us. So don't you feel that more people understand that today, or do you feel there are a high percentage of individuals that believe what they see on TV?
I think you have a combination of both.
Okay.
Because most of what you see on TV, as you know, is not always accurate, and sometimes it is accurate. So it's just a lot of people living their life as sheep, right? And we're just following each other and just assuming. Like if I came to you and I say, okay, or like at one point they said, okay, don't eat soy milk because it has estrogen-like substances in it, and it will cause men to grow, breasts, and it will make cancer worse. But how many people really do understand that soy, which has isoflavones, is more proven to reduce first and recurrence of breast cancer? And people who eat the most amounts of soy, breast cancer is almost not even talked about. And I've been drinking soy and consuming it since '89. I don't have breasts, as far as enlarged breasts. So, and my kids who are 13 and 10, when they were born, it was breast milk, and then they segued right into soy milk. I don't have a problem with soy because I know the answers, and I know that men who consume soy regularly are 30% less likely to experience prostate cancer. So how many people are aware of that truth? Because 10 plus years ago, soy was like the number one milk alternative sold. Now it's almond milk, and next to it it's oat milk. But soy is proven through many studies to be the healthiest milk alternative to cow's milk.
Mm-hmm.
So
how do you get this across to people, the factual pieces of what we eat, such as your soy milk?
That's the challenge, because if you take, let's say you have a lady who's a Beverly Hills dietitian, and she's on TV with Dr. Oz. As soon as she says, almond milk is the best milk, no one questioned it. Dr. Oz supported it, and everybody ran to it. Whereas most people aren't aware that one almond or 1 gram of protein, to get 1 gram of protein, it takes 4 almonds. And in 1 cup of almond milk, you have about 1 gram of protein. It's almost nil of protein. But people, they have no idea why they're drinking it. They're drinking it because somewhere on TV or they heard or read in the magazine that that's the milk to go with. So that's the challenge. That's why it goes back to we got to get the people informed so they're not influenced and led by the people who are misinformed.
Right. And would you say that takes money? I mean, you can be on radio shows, you can talk with people. And let me ask you, with the COVID, the pandemic right now, are you still traveling around the country and doing research on what's happening with nutrition?
Yeah, actually, I just completed a trial in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I went back and forth every week. I flew from Los Angeles on Wednesdays, flew back on Saturdays, and I worked with a small group in a trial, all under resource as far as financially challenged. And everyone in the group lost weight. We had one lady who had a hemoglobin A1C of 8%, which means she's a type 2 diabetic. Inside of the 3-month trial, we dropped it down to 6%.
Good.
We had people like triglycerides cut in half, blood pressure improved, and these are all people who don't have access to organic food. They're eating food that's subsidized, but I showed them how to eat it in the healthiest way. So the key factor with that trial is that we demonstrated that nutrition education, meeting someone where they are with it, is the key way on how we can turn this thing around and start reducing the obesity epidemic.
Right. Now, how do you feel about the emotional piece, that people medicate themselves with food? And do you feel it's important to dive into what is really the core of why they eat too much? Because there's parallels there. I feel one feeds the other, and you can lose a lot of weight, be in good shape, but fall back on those emotional triggers that are making you eat to begin with, or making you eat too much, should I say.
Well, remember what I said earlier when I mentioned food insecurities?
Yes.
So food insecurity has nothing to do with where you are as far as emotionally or mental health. It has everything to do with, I don't know if I have enough money to pay my light bill, and we got food on the table, so we better eat it. You know what I mean? So that's not just what you're saying. However,
right.
capitalize what you're
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm not saying, but to bring it all in, yes, I'm a big believer that you must look at not just nutrition, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, not just look at how active you are, becoming active, exercise, all of that. The third leg of the stool is mindset, motivation. Where are you psychologically? And that's where you must meet people where they are, because if I came in and said, we're going to eat salmon and asparagus, there are many people in America who have never eaten salmon and don't even know what asparagus is.
This is true.
Meeting them where they are is like, okay. Like I'm thinking of this husband and wife I met. She's a type 2 diabetic. Husband has high blood pressure. He just turned 70. She's in her early 60s, and they want to get healthier. And so when I sit down, I said, what do you guys currently eat? I want to know what you eat. And they're Puerto Rican, so they started talking about Puerto Rican dishes that are important to them. And in their mind, they're thinking, we got to give all this up. I go, no, you don't have to give it up. They said, well, we like, our Spanish rice. We don't want just white rice. Okay, you're going to eat your Spanish rice. And so you meet them where they are, and you show them how to navigate nutrition that's going to be something that is not just for a moment, but is really something they can live with, right? Because most people that go back to their old ways, they go back to their old ways because someone took away what was important to them, right? So that Filipina that came into my office, I said, no white rice, not knowing that in the Philippines, they're eating white rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the truth is, fast forward all these years later, I now know that people who live the longest in the world, they don't eat brown rice. Most of them never even seen brown rice. They grow up eating white rice, and that's the staple that these people who live the longest in the world that are eating all the time. It's only in North America that we have this obsession with whole wheat and sprouted wheat and brown rice or wild rice over white rice, and white rice is the wrong way to go. It's so confusing, but yet we're the melting pot for all these different ethnicities from all over the world. And we bring them here, and of course they gain weight because we put more food in front of them than they're used to eating. We strip them of the things that are a big part of who they are. And, brown rice may not be healthy for their gut bacteria, right? Because
that's right.
What I mean? Your microbiome.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say I don't have the expertise you do, but I had read about there was a team of doctors that were put together that really did some due diligence around white rice and white flour, and they were saying that there's a certain, I don't know if it was an enzyme or something in the microbiome that really, can absorb, or something about that, about the white piece versus the whole wheat. The stomach doesn't have the ability to you could probably speak to that better than I, we're coming up on a break.
All right, well, let me leave this with your audience, and then they'll come back. If you came to me and you said, Robert, what's the best bread to eat if I want to lose weight? I would say sourdough. And when we come back from the break, I'll tell everybody why I'm saying sourdough, which is a white bread.
Okay, yes. All right, everyone. Stay with us. We'll be back more with Robert Ferguson. This is a live show, so feel free to call in. Our toll-free number is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. And to get in touch with Robert and learn more about all that he gives to the world, go on his site. It's dietfreelife.com. Just as it sounds, dietfreelife.com. We'll be back in a moment.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Join us in May and we'll waive the daily fees. Located in Rhinebeck, in New York's beautiful Hudson Valley, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. That's 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. You're listening to the Dream Vision 7 radio and TV network now, and we have Robert Ferguson. He is a nationally recognized certified nutritionist, fitness expert, and he is also Stayhealthy's health ambassador and America's fat loss coach. And before the break, we were talking about sourdough bread, so go right ahead, Robert.
Well, sourdough, like most people are familiar with the Glycemic Index, which is a tool used to look at food as carbohydrate content and how it impacts blood sugar. So the higher it is on the index, the more likely it'll cause blood sugar levels to spike. And so white bread or whole wheat bread is higher on the glycemic index than sourdough bread. So sourdough, because of its acidity, is going to be more helpful on your blood sugar than, say, whole wheat. The other thing about the acidity of sourdough is that it contributes to healthy gut bacteria, which gut bacteria, or aka microbiome, makes up 70% of your immune system. So you want to consume foods and have a lifestyle that supports a healthy immune system, and sourdough does that. And we could go on, but that's just one example of how, think of all the people who quit eating sourdough because it was white, thinking that whole wheat would be the best approach. And they just didn't have all the information.
Right. So now being on the task force on obesity, what have you seen in the time that you're there that has improved the the information that gets out there, or even new ideas being actually implemented to help people choose the right foods for them?
Sadly, there's not much being done to improve any part of that. The numbers continue to go up all over the country. And it's not, it's just there's so much, like there's body politics, right, or health politics, if you will, where you have to navigate through. And, again, all the people who are, like, in positions of influence are also living a life with misinformation. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, when someone comes to California and they want to become a celebrity, I tell them the biggest challenge you're going to have when you come to California is being able to figure out who's real and who's not. That's going to take you a long time unless you're lucky, because there's so many wannabes and there's so many people confessing and saying this is that and this is wrong and this is right and this agent can do this. That by the time, if you're tough enough and you can stick it out long enough, eventually you'll come to the conclusion that the biggest challenge is not your talent, it's getting with the right people who can help create a platform to show your talent. That make sense?
Yes.
So if I'm talking to, someone who's on the board, let's say with the American Medical Association, the National Medical Association, each one of those people have their own beliefs when it comes to nutrition. And each one of them is thinking things supposed to be a certain way that may not be. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, in essence, that's across the board, right? Everybody has their own belief systems carried through, and they're really they're in solid ground in those belief systems and may not move an inch, unfortunately.
Right. So imagine this. Imagine that you are a nutritionist and you've had 1,000 clients and you told them for many years not to eat white rice. And then you find out that white rice is healthier for your clients. Are you going to go call all 1,000 clients and let them know the truth? Or are you just going to keep living life?
Right. I would think that you would do the best that you could to inform them and then move forward from a wiser platform.
Well, a lot of people don't want to admit that they're wrong.
This is true.
I had an Ivy Leaguer once. I was consulting this big company, and as I was talking to her and all these physicians were in the room, when we were done, she goes, "Robert, here's the biggest problem with your Diet for Life program." And I was all ears. She said, "Many people will be offended and will question themselves when they find out that what they've been thinking all these years is not right." And I think that's going to be your biggest challenge. And she was right.
Right.
Because when you go into a room, if there's 5 physicians they don't want to acknowledge, after being in the field and working for all these years and doing what they've been doing, that they've been recommending, information and steps to people that's not accurate, and that what they thought is not accurate. And then you got all the nurses, and you have everyone. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that McDonald's sells more apples than any restaurant in the world. They don't want to acknowledge that McDonald's...
Is that a fact?
That is a fact. Reduced the sodium and removed all of the trans fats out of their food. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that when it comes to salads, McDonald's, who sells a lot of them, only provides organic Newman's Own salad dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people don't know that, and the reason they don't know is because they don't go in McDonald's.
True.
So we should be applauding McDonald's for the fact that that they only sell Newman's Own organic salad dressing. We should be applauding McDonald's that they remove the trans fats. We should be applauding McDonald's because they lowered the sodium in their food. We should be, applauding them. But what happens is we live in a culture where people are so quick to point the finger at the big guy that McDonald's is easier to beat them up than to talk about what they do well.
You're right. You're right. And I take ownership of that. I mentioned earlier, because all I know is from years back. I don't know today because I don't eat there and I don't read about it. So thank you for pointing that out. We should be applauding them in certain areas, yes. So well, let's get into... Go ahead. No, go right ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, we just live in a world where we got to get people informed. And the good news is that if I mention something, right, they can write it down and they can go Google it. And when they Google it, they're going to peel back some layers of that onion, and the truth will be exposed. Mm-hmm. So don't take my word for it. I'm just going to bring up things that when you look into it, you go, wow, that guy was actually telling the truth. And I didn't know that.
Right. And that's something that we need to do on everything these days. Yeah. So let's speak to the African Americans and the COVID. And you have stated that 13% of the population account for nearly 40% of the deaths. So speak to that. And is it because of the economic and social disparities? Where what is this about? I mean, we know, but yet, do tell us the truth.
Well, there's so many factors to this. And at that time, when I first shared some of that information with you, it was based on the fact of people getting COVID. Now the focus is not just getting COVID, but how many people are actually dying from COVID. And from a disproportionate standpoint, African Americans, last I looked, which was with CDC, they were saying that Black Americans were 37% more likely to die from COVID than whites. And that's looking at age, sex, and mortality rates over time. Asians were 53% more likely to die. Native Americans and Alaskan Natives, 26% more likely to die. Hispanics, 16% more likely to die. So then we got to go, okay, so why is this? Well, one, a lot of people in those populations I just mentioned, a larger percentage of those people in that population have some type of morbidity, right? Oftentimes comorbidities, where they may be diabetic or pre-diabetic, have high blood pressure, they're taking medications. And a lot of those diseases and the medications that are associated with them creates havoc on your immune system. So if you remember, I mentioned your gut bacteria microbiome makes up 70% of your immune system. Well, if we're looking at a pathogen that is attacking the immune system, and you have a suppressed immune system, and you're dealing with these other diseases, I believe that that's one of the main reasons why so many more people in these populations are dying when they get COVID.
So it isn't the obesity or the unhealthy food?
No, I would say that it's obesity is one of the morbidities. Type 2 diabetes is one. High triglycerides is one. People dealing and living with disease, a large part of the population for blacks, that's their reality. And it would be the same for Alaskans, Native Americans and Alaskan natives. I am a little thrown off with the high percentage of Asians who attract COVID that die because they don't have those same challenges. So there's a lot of mystery here, but what I do know is that we want to do the things, which includes nutrition, fitness, mindset, lifestyle, that will support our immune system so that if you do catch COVID, you're less likely to die and you can thrive through the process of beating that disease.
So there's some complexities there. So what else contributes to more African American people dying?
I think it's from a cultural standpoint, African Americans, Latinos, they are more likely to have more people living in one household compared to, say, Caucasian.
Bingo, yeah.
And then you're going to have people, young kids coming in, grandma's in the back room. She's in a wheelchair. She's got some challenges. I think you have that. And then I think you have a lot of these people that are already sick and don't know it. We know that African-American men are much less likely to go to a doctor checkup, do an annual screening, get their colon checked compared to their counterparts.
And why is that, Robert?
You know, I think it's a cultural. I say cultural. It's not like I'm just running from answering it, but I can only look at myself, and I can look at my friends and family members. Men in the black community were not. We didn't see other black men doing that. Oftentimes, there wasn't a black figurehead around that you could look up to, right? So if you're being raised by your mom,
that's a good point.
Then mom goes to the doctor, and and that's great. But when it comes to African American men, it's just not something that they do. You go when it's the last. You just don't want to go, and unfortunately, when they do go, they don't want to find out they got some problems, right? So it's better to stay in the dark than to live life in the light. When it comes to health for a lot of these people, nobody wants to be told, "Hey, you have diabetes and you can't eat that barbecue anymore." Oh man,
right, exactly. And,
but that's where Diet for Life comes in. I mean, it's we can help people, but it's just a matter of we need more transparency, and unfortunately, that's going to be really tough to do. Because if people are educated, then you don't need Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or Nutrisystem or any of these other programs, because you now have the knowledge and know-how to eat whatever you want to eat, but eat it in a way where you can live your healthiest life.
Right. When you see that from that perspective, you could actually visualize a whole team of people that we don't have now in areas, especially the more rural areas that they don't have access unless there's a mobile thing going by and attracting them to have a checkup. But imagine if that would be a whole new group of jobs for people. If once they're trained to go out and educate, 10 people at a time or one family at a time. And maybe they're doing that now. I don't know. Have you, what are your thoughts on that?
No, no one's doing that. And where they are educating, they're missing that key component of meeting people where they are.
Where they are.
Think about how difficult that would be. Just really think of if anyone who's think about how challenging it would be to meet everyone where they are. That means you would not have judgment, right? No more judging. That means that you have to become familiar with the foods they're eating. I was doing this talk, and this black lady, stood up and she asked about chitlins or citrulline and hog mogs. And I was at a desk, like the board, I guess, if you will, where it was 4 of us, 3 other nutritionists, and they were all Caucasian, just happened to be, and none of them knew what hog mogs and chitlins were. But I did, because I grew up in the African American community, And I grew up watching my mom and grandma eat chitlins and hog mugs. So I was able to explain to the lady how to eat those in the healthiest way. And I told her, I said, hog mugs are very high in protein, very low in fat. They're like the equivalent of chicken breast, like the stomach of the cow or pig or wherever it comes from. So then you have the intestines, which are the chitlins, which are really high in fat. It's like pure fat, like butter. And I said, do a combination of 5 to 1, meaning when you put this together, make sure you have 5 times more hog mugs than you have the chitlins. And then when you eat it as a meal, then keep it at a certain amount, which I explained. And that lady just felt like, thank you. Like she almost teared up because someone gave her a way to eat it healthier because she's going to eat it anyway. Certain people are they're going to eat it. So you can beat them up and shame them and make them feel horrible. But when they leave, they're going to still eat what they're going to eat.
Wow. All right. Well, we're up against our last break, everyone. Robert is here if you'd like to give us a call. The number is 833-220-1200. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Are you searching for a way to help create global change? Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's vision is to have an eclectic group of radio hosts dedicated to educating, enlightening, and helping humankind with positive messages and tools that enhance lives using different modalities and programs. If you would like to join our team and help illuminate the universe, call Deborah at 508-226-1723 or Deborah at dreamvision7radio.com.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And welcome back. We are with Robert Ferguson. He's actually authored 2 evidence-based studies on weight loss and reversing childhood obesity, and he's penned 3 books on nutrition and fitness. You can learn more about him at his site, dietfreelife.com, just as it sounds, dietfreelife.com. So let me ask you, Robert, from the beginning of COVID back in March and up to today in December, have you seen things get worse with the African American population, or has it evened off, or what are your thoughts in that area?
I believe it's gotten worse for all demographics. People have gained weight. You don't hear the media talking about all of these negatives that are taking place. Alcohol abuse is up higher. Domestic violence is increased. Health has dwindled for so many more people. And so it's not getting better. You know, I had a client who became type 2 diabetic before COVID and had a hemoglobin A1C of 7%, which is confirmed diabetic, and couldn't get into the hospital or to see the doctor because of COVID and all the other challenges with so many people. And so a significant amount of time lapsed. And because his weight was still down, he felt that everything was well. Well, he finally got in to see his doctor, and his hemoglobin A1C is 11%. So it's gotten worse. He could have literally fell into diabetic coma. So, you know, we know that, you know, there's millions of people living with type 2 diabetes, but we also know there's close to 100 million people in North America who are type 2 diabetic and have no idea about it. So they're in the pre-diabetic stages. So we are sick, and a lot of people, when they just look at themselves on the outside, they go, well, no, I look pretty good, I'm good. That doesn't mean that you're healthy. So my recommendation is to everyone with COVID, whether you're black, white, Asian, doesn't matter, is to be mindful, listen to what everyone else is saying, because we don't know. So if you don't know, it's best to do it. And, you know, take care of yourself. Exercise. I mean, I've exercised, I've traveled, all of that during COVID. I mean, I worked out this morning. And my mom just came out of quarantine. My mom got COVID 2 weeks ago. And she's got comorbidity. She's got 3 stents in her arteries. She survived breast cancer 3 times. So she's got a lot of challenges. So everything that I'm sharing with you, I shared with my mom. And now she's out of it, and she's feeling much better. My niece caught COVID. My great-niece caught COVID. My cousin caught COVID twice.
Oh, boy.
Actually, 2 of my cousins got it twice. I mean, what's the likelihood of that? Yeah, so, and I'm starting to hear more and more people are becoming positive with COVID.
Yeah, especially on the... Yeah. So how, when you're traveling and you come home, what precautions do you take coming home with the kids and your wife? I mean, that must be a concern on your mind.
Well, I'm a single father, so I don't have a wife, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
So, but I do have
my baby. I don't know if that's good.
No, it's good. Trust me, it's really good. I'm very, very happy being extremely single. I'm married to my kids and my baby. But, yeah, with all the travel and different groups and meeting people and fist bumping and handshaking, I stay hydrated. I don't gain weight. I eat a variety of foods. Yeah, and I mean, who knows? I mean, I've been tested 9 times for COVID. I've never been positive. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't gotten in. So many other people are.
And so I have to ask you, Robert, would you take the vaccine?
No.
And why is that from your perspective?
I haven't had a flu shot since I went into the Marine Corps. So I think maybe the last time I had a flu shot was either 89 or 86. So, I mean, I guess I just... And I'm not concerned. I think the government is probably doing extremely the best they can, and all the people who are putting these vaccines together, I think that's great. But no matter what, I wouldn't get the vaccine.
I'm with you on that. Because if you have any autoimmune, if you have any allergies, and I'm with you with the flu shot. I have not either, because once I had a flu shot years ago, and I got the flu 6 times in a row. As soon as it would go away, it would come again. But I can see why people would take it, and then the other thought or the other avenue is to think, well, there'll come a time where everyone will be made to take it, especially the kids going back to school.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to deal with that one.
Right, because there needs to be the free choice as well. We're getting short on time, and I wanted to, and I understand all that, and I understand how parents feel especially in the college age group where they're talking about that. If one has it and the other one doesn't have the vaccine, then that can affect this one or that one. But, there are times where it could be a death sentence to someone's body, to a percentage of people.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you?
You know what? I wouldn't want to guess, and I wouldn't want to scare someone. I think that we all need to just live your life right now, except for staying inside, as though you have COVID. That's the tip that I give people, and use this time to get in the best possible shape of your life. The challenge, however, especially here in California, is so many of my friends have lost their jobs. Many of my friends are struggling, not knowing how they're going to eat. And then you start thinking about Christmas time, and you start thinking about their kids. The distance learning is driving parents absolutely crazy. It's driving the kids absolutely crazy. These are horrible times. I go on Facebook and I see people in Florida, and I just go, wow, that is not my life right now. I can't take my kids out to restaurants. We can't just go to a park and play. You can't even get on the slides or the swings. Everything is blocked off. People have no idea outside of California, unless it's the same in New York and some other states, of how challenging it is. My friends right now, they own fitness centers. They can't even be open. So how are they going to pay? And the landlords aren't going to forgive what they own. I mean, I didn't have my place open for 5 months, and 5 times $4,000 a month is what my lease is. I paid it. I had to pay it. So I'm not bringing in money that I'm not used to bringing in. I'm still paying my bills. Even with electricity and gas, they will not turn off your gas or electricity, but it's not forgiven. You're going to have to pay that. So it'll be a small amount. So that is stressful, and that will cause a person to not want to exercise. It'll cause a person to become an emotional eater. We saw early on that people were running to the stores, and they weren't buying apples and bananas. They were buying Oreos and Twinkies.
Right. So how can we? Yeah, it's a mess, and I mean I'm not in California, but I've heard a lot. We're out here in Boston, Massachusetts, and we have some restrictions, but it isn't at the level where you're at. And I've heard that even going outside isn't allowed. But I mean, if you have a yard, you should be able to go out in your yard, or like you say, for a walk. I mean, it is crazy. So just in the last 2 minutes, I'll give to you. What can we do? What can the African American population do based on what you're sharing, which is real, and I've learned so much from what you're sharing, but what can we do? How can we do better?
Put your health and joy and happiness as a priority. Everyone can do that. Get educated. I mean, they can come to me as a source. They can start just resourcing as a source, but I would say drink plenty of water. Tea is great if you're not into drinking a lot of water. Drink hot tea. Get some organic honey. Make that a part of your staple. The honey is amazing. To me, it's God's gift to all of us because it's one of the only foods that does not spoil. And it maintains all of its healthful properties. So I would do that. Go for walks, be active, exercise, take care of your body. not just for weight loss, but for your immune system. Because actually, there's two ways to boost your immune system. And if you notice, I never used the word boost earlier. I said eat and live your life to support your immune system. So there's only two ways to boost it. Number one is the vaccine will boost it, and that's how it's able to fight off these pathogens. But then number two, activity. Exercise will boost your immune system. And it also contributes to helping improve your gut bacteria. So most of what people know to do, I would say do it. The biggest challenge, and I'll end on this note, and it goes back to your point about the emotional side of things, the mindset, is that in psychology we know that when you know something to be true and you don't do what you know to be true, the bigger that gap, the worse you feel about yourself on the inside. Yeah. So ignorance at this point could be bliss. So if you hear me saying drink more water to help yourself, be as healthy as possible through this whole pandemic and just for life, and you don't drink more water, but yet you're drinking more soda, you're not doing what you know to be true.
Good point.
And that can create some havoc on mindset, and actually puts people in positions where they have chest pains and other challenges can come about. So we all have the power. If you can hear my voice and you woke up this morning, obviously because you can hear my voice, then there's things that you can do. And if you've been depending on certain jobs,
I'm sorry, I have to interject. The time is over. We're going to have you back, Robert. Early next year, we'll have you back in the spring. Everyone, we need to fly. Au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.